Squadron creation, May 2022. Prior to the addition of squadrons, for a long time there were transport certification events hosted to get certified to fly the Ju-52. Though following a promise that if enough people attended the May 2022 inspection, squadrons would be added. And upon hitting that goal, on May 14, 2022 squadrons were added. One of the 3 squadrons added was the 22nd Heavy Falcons Transport Squadron led by Hildegard, formerly known as Hayden Blitz. Reign of Hayden, early 2022 to early 2023. Upon the creation of squadrons, Chief of Staff Jade Blitz was tasked with picking 3 of the most experienced officers to lead these new squadrons. Out of the officers, Hayden Blitz was deemed most competent to lead the 22nd Transport Squadron due to his past experience managing transport certifications in the Air Force. Under Hayden, the original foundation was put in place with the original tutorials and documents being created on how to fly the Ju-52. Hayden was the longest-serving squadron commander and member in the squadron's history. During his reign he brought mass stability with consistent activity and steady numbers. Though he never saw the massive member counts that later commanders would reach, he did maintain a very stable environment which has yet to be replicated. After a year though, events happened in Hayden's personal life that forced him to leave the Air Force despite not wanting to. Circumstances did eventually allow him to return after Oswald was removed, though he later left again. Due to the Blitz Exodus in 2023, it is unlikely he will ever return and lead the squadron again. Reign of Oswald, early 2023 to mid-2023. The discharge of Hayden came right after the XO at the time, Kahruji, resigned, which left the squadron with no active staff. At the same time, in the 52nd Squadron, one of the officers, Oswald, was convicted for helping people cheat through the officer candidate school. This came right as he was about to become the XO of the 33rd Squadron that was planned to be added. As a punishment, he lost his chance at XO of 33rd, was demoted to 2nd Lieutenant, and forced into the 22nd Transport Squadron to help the lack of staff. Despite these circumstances, Oswald decided to make the best of his situation. He began mass hosting for weeks on end, which led to the squadron reaching never-before-seen heights. The squadron broke the at-the-time record and got to 43 squadron members. Pretty quickly he reached squadron commander and regained favor with the Chief of Staff, Jade Blitz, though this rise would be cut short as the MS would surface showing he had posted edits that showed homophobic and anti-Semitic rhetoric. He was swiftly removed and received a permanent blacklist. Months later he apologized and his blacklist was removed, although he doesn't seem to have plans of ever becoming an officer in the Air Force again. Squadron Shutdown 1, Summer 2023. The same day Oswald was removed, the High Command decided that with the inactivity of the other squadrons, both the CO and XO of 22nd being demoted/leaving, and the XO of 18th being exiled just a week prior, that it was best to shut down all squadrons for the time being. This shutdown was planned to last 2 months, giving time for the Air Force to reform and restructure. Squadron Merger, late summer 2023. When squadrons were created, there were originally only 3 squadrons. One of these squadrons, the 18th Kingfishers CAS Squadron, formerly known as the 18th Kate CAS Squadron, had been experiencing much difficulty at the time. After the founder of the 18th, Airger Blitz, and his brother Red Blitz left the Air Force, the squadron had faced major inactivity and staffing issues. After the brothers left, the squadron never had more than 1 active officer at a time, and staff kept getting exiled or leaving. Due to this, it was decided during the squadron shutdown that the 18th Squadron should be merged into the 22nd Transport Squadron. As a fun note, the singular officer 18th had, KOB-1, eventually became the 6th commander of our squadron several months after the merger. Blitz Exodus, mid-2023. The Orden de Blitzes is a Roblox family that had held the vast majority of all command positions in the Air Force for over 2 years. A very large portion of the Air Force was in the Order of the Blitz, and for as long as anyone could remember, not only were the Blitz in command, but the High Command itself was made of only Blitz members, and hadn't changed for almost a full year. Then one day they all left. It's difficult to describe the damage this sudden exodus caused on the Air Force. Essentially all of the competent and active staff had left, leaving mass confusion on who would even lead the Air Force, or any of the squadrons. It was during this that a second lieutenant who had recently transferred, Oskar Malashenko, and another second lieutenant who had just passed OCS, Alex Malashenko, decided to take charge of the situation. Despite them being fresh lieutenants, they were promoted to Chief of Staff and Air Commodore and quickly began fixing the Air Force. Reign of Kahruji, late 2023 to early 2024. Right as the Blitz Exodus occurred, one of 20 seconds old XO, Kahruji, had rejoined the Air Force. Somewhat unrelated, over a year prior the 22nd Command had been promised that one day they will be given a HE-111 bomber plane. Right as Kahruji was promoted to second lieutenant, this promise was finally fulfilled as the bomber was added. The Chief of Staff, Oskar Malashenko, then decided that the squadron should be transformed into a bomber squadron and the Ju-52 would be given to the airborne instead. Oskar stated that he was planning on renaming the squadron and let Kahruji pick the new name, which he did. On top of this, Kahruji began remaking all the documents as well as a squadron Discord, with the help of former 18th XO Gyani Agni. This is on top of him creating and naming the 3 bombing methods. Upon the renaming and addition of the bomber, the squadron sparked mass interest across the wider EIG. This led to a large influx of officer transfers, leading to the squadron having 7 officers at one point. Though upon testing of the new plane, members found that it was completely broken and its issues would not be fixed for months. Due to this and mass enlist inactivity, the officers' transfers all began leaving, and within a month all the new transfers had left. This on top of a purge left the squadron with only 8 members, and it faced possibly being shut down if it couldn't fix its activity. With this, Kahruji began large-scale reforms as well as mass hosting and recruitment. It was during this time that Kahruji also added flights, which Hayden and him originally tried to add in 2023, but it was denied by Air Force High Command. This being a structural idea that would later be adopted in the wider Air Force. The mass recruitment brought in tons of new members who Kahruji helped become NCOs so they could also be involved in the mass recruitment. This in turn created a feedback loop of growth, which led to the squadron reaching and beating the old record and obtaining 57 members even while having squadron-wide weekly activity requirements. With this, he was promoted to wing commander and chose the aforementioned KOB-1 to succeed him in leadership. Reign of LitBlitzyy, early 2024 to mid-2024. Following KOB-1 becoming the squadron commander, the squadron began to face some difficulty as he didn't have much time to devote to EIG. The squadron steadily became more and more inactive and the member count fell farther and farther away from its peak. Though at the same time that Kahruji became the wing commander, an officer had transferred into the squadron after seeing our community and wanting to join. This officer, LitBlitzyy, quickly began to pick up the slack caused by the inactivity of KOB-1 and began restoring the squadron to a more active state. He brought in great ideas such as merging the squadron training and tryout as seen in other divisions, as well as being very harsh on inactivity. This led to a resurgence, and although it never broke old member count records, the squadron did see steady activity even when other squadrons faltered. Because of this, he was chosen to take the place of KOB-1. And later on, with increased success, he was also promoted to wing commander. Although he did not choose a successor as he did not deem any of the squadron officers to be fit for the position. Squadron Shutdown 2, Fall 2024. Despite not being too inactive, the new high command following the discharge of Oskar and coup of Alex decided it would be best to once again disband squadrons. They believe that instead of having squadrons, that the Air Force would do better if it was all under one wing. They did say that to preserve skill they will keep the 52nd and 73rd flights. Although 52nd had long held resentment against the 73rd flight due to them wanting to be the only elite part of the Air Force. Due to that, 52nd flight officers convinced the Chief of Staff, Ruscelio, to disband the 73rd flight. The removal of squadrons was not said to be a temporary act to fix them, as was the case prior, and the High Command does not seem to plan on bringing them back anytime soon. Attempts have been made to push the High Command to bring squadrons back, although they have not worked. Even if successful, talks from the High Command indicate that our beloved squadron will not be added back even if they bring squadrons as a whole back. Since they for some reason believe a squadron dedicated to bombing or taking out tanks to be unnecessary.
Она выглядит как мами среди всех в этом клабе. Ее вид всегда шикарен, на ней сидится идеально. У нее всегда все окей, ты должен ей открыть дверь. Сумка Беркли, она яркая, штаты кашляет тебе.
Stronger, him or you?
If EL2 uses all his rockets, he might give me a little trouble.
But would you lose?
Nah, I'd win.
I would eat your cookies, bro.
Nah,
Put some cookies.
bro, I will dip my cookie in your milk, bro.
Whoa, hold on. That sounds weird, bro. Bro, I can't play with one hand, bro. Stop.
What are you doing with the other?
Are you jacking off to the Roblox game? Come on, bro.
I mean,
Bro,
who
what?
wouldn't?
That's worse than
Gay,
Roblox,
Roblox is gay, bro. I have a question for you guys right here. Do you
Wait,
suck and swallow, or do you spill out?
Depends.
Do you actually come in the sink?
What?
Nah.
Why?
Better-
No,
better-
don't do that. Your things are gonna, or your
It's
pipes are gonna get
It's
clogged.
better to come in the sink than to sink in the cum.
No, just like collect in a bucket, then like put your feet in there and give it a good massage. It'll feel good.